Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this Star Savior video. So in this Star Savior video, we'll talk about the top 10 Arcanas to look out for when you're doing your re-rolling for the Arcanas tomorrow. So we talked about some reroll targets in our reroll guide, but for today's video, we'll talk about like 10 to 12 cards that you can settle with in case you get them on your rerolls tomorrow, and we'll break down why. For this part, I'll be using one of the JP sites which I follow a lot, and that is the appmedia.jp, which I'll link in the description down below. So they broke down all the different abilities of the Arcana, give them the ranking and explain why. So we'll use this page to talk about the top 10 Arcanas to look out for, and also discuss about why certain Arcanas are not seen at the higher tiers. Right, so starting off, to understand the basics of Arcana, we have to go back into the game. So this is my own account right here. Whenever you go into the journeys, Savior's Journey, you'll start off by choosing a preset of power-ups for blessings as well as the training effect boost. So the character chipset over here offers the additional stat for the additional blessings, plus 30 HP and plus 25 tolerance right here. So these are all the different stats that will add up after the end of the training to give you the character card, to give you the stat boost as well as all the ability boosts according to all these stats right here. So after you choose the characters, you have to choose 5 Arcanas to be used in this journey. So typically the combination of Arcanas will be 2 attack, 2 HP as well as 1 additional like sub-utility card. So if it's a tank, it will be 2 HP, 2 endurance cards, so on and so forth. And for each of the card that you use that's of the main character right here, you'll get an additional boost to the training effect for this bonus over here. So for this cards over here, they'll offer you a series of journey effect boosts as well as a fixed effect boost, and there are journey events right here. This journey events gives you the ability to get additional stats, additional stamina as you are progressing through the Savior journey. So there are certain cards which has amazing passive abilities from their journeys event. So like I mentioned before, some cards have this passive stat boost that you can equip to your character, which are insanely versatile, and some of them has insanely powerful events which gives a lot of boost, which equates to more stats to your character after the training. So that's with regards to how the Arcanas work. And moving back to App Media's page, so for this one, I'll talk about the top 10s, but I'll also be recommending other cards which are in their lower tier, which I think is actually insanely strong as well. Because for this tier list, or for a lot of the JP tier lists which I referred to, a lot of the tier lists don't put all these tanker cards or even damage reduction cards in the high tiers. Because tanker cards, number one, they are relatively niche to specific units in terms of their power-ups. And endurance is usually not the prioritized defensive stats when you build up your unit in the Savior Journey. Because like you realize a lot of the HP cards being on top, because HP cards generally is a more universal stat. Having more boost on the HP is usually better for most types, either attackers, your healers, which have a lot of HP based skills in terms of their heals, as well as certain damage based healers. So this is where like endurance is usually of the lower priority. And another reason is also because of the training structure, because there's actually a training mission which trains up endurance together with HP and attack, and then there's one which trains up HP as well as endurance. So this is where the defensive icon or the endurance stat is not usually prioritized, and their cards are deemed a little bit weaker. But for today's video, I'll be including Heavenly Trials as one of my recommendations. So this card over here, take a look at this unit, or Eliza. So this is Eliza's card. This card is actually very universal. If we take a look at the bonuses that is able to provide, these are the different bonuses in terms of the additional effect. But more importantly, the reason why this card is really good is because this is one of the best all-rounder shielding card that you can put on almost any units that wants those additional defensive stat passive. Because this unit over here has the ability to attain the passive intuitive defense. So this is one of the passive bonus that I mentioned earlier. With about 200 talent points or potential points, you can exchange for this bonus to equip, and you get 8% defense as well as 4% effect resistance. So So this will help your unit tank a little bit better. Very universal, there's no requirements. Like you can basically put this on any unit. So this is probably, if not the strongest defense card or the shield card in general. So that's for this one. Okay. And on top of that, this card also has an event that allows you to recover stamina. So if we go into all these choices as well as the effects over here, you can see that there's actually one which gives you 5 patience. So 5 patience is the shield icon. And then this one is the stamina recovery portion. So all this stamina recovery allows you to optimize your savior journey a little bit better. So you guys will realize a trend where cards usually with the stamina recovery is often in the higher tiers. So that's for Elijah's card. Okay, look out for this card over here. Then next, let's move back to the list. Another card which is in the lower tier which I can recommend is actually a quiet rest time. So this is Emily's card. Okay, Emily's card is actually very strong on the effect as well as the different events that is able to provide. Okay, but the problem with Emily's card would be the passive not being very inclusive, because if you take a look at this, you have this defender exclusive. At the start of your turn, your Nova Force increases by 2. So this can only occur once every 2 turns, which is an amazing defensive exclusive stat boost. This is very, very powerful. But the thing is, like, it's only to the defender. So like, if let's say you are training a attacker, or if you are training a support or a mage, then you won't be able to benefit from this. But if you take a look at the other buffs that is able to provide, 15 stamina, 10 stamina with all these potential boosts right here, generally amazing buffs all around. And this card in general, I think can be used if you don't have some of the more OP HP cards. So this is one card I'll recommend. And if you are using a defender or you're building up a tanker like Emily, for example, then this is probably the best card that can go on them as well, even though it's a HP based card. So that's with regards to a quiet rest time. So now let's move on to the tier 2 as well as the tier 1 category. Starting off with the battle pass card. So this card over here, I think the name is Stargazing, right? Or Stargazing, or Dreams While Watching the Stars. So this card over here, this is a battle pass Arcana, which you can unlock when you purchase the BP itself. So this card over here is generally versatile, can be used on all units, and the critical hit rate buff makes it compatible with all attackers. So this is generally a very versatile card with a pretty decent passive. So critical hit rate increased by 18%. Even though if you take a look at all these options right here, they are not exactly as OP as compared to like some of the cards that I shared earlier. There's no stamina recovery, but this additional concentration could be helpful for certain units. And the passive over here basically benefits all attacker that wants the critical hit rate boost. So that's why this card is in general still a pretty decent card. And it's a very easily obtainable card if you're planning to spend for the battle pass. And moving on, let's talk about Mural's card. So this card is a card which is more spellcaster centric, because this card's effect over here is generally good with plus strength across all the events. But the passive is one which increases critical damage by 10% up to 3 times at the start of each turn, right? So you have to at least run through 3 turns to get a boost, which is not tough. But more importantly, this is a caster only passive. So if you use this Arcana on any other non-caster unit, you won't be able to activate this passive. So the strengths will be getting the strength stats, which benefits the percentage attack, which is good for all attackers. But the passive slightly niche, so that's why this card is only in the S tier. So that's for Mural. Next, let's talk about Omega. So Omega's ability right here is a special effect boost. So this one is very, very niche. Like if you take a look at Omega's event over here, it has all plus strength as well. And in fact, even more stat lines compared to Mural. So Omega's card can be said to be slightly better. But then the special skill or the special skill damage part of things is, I think, not as universal across the board compared to like just having like an attack stat buff or damage buff, because like not all units will benefit from this one, even though you can actually put this on like all characters, all your supports and stuff. But how much will they benefit from this is another thing. So this is a passive which is, you know, really good in certain situations, but in most situations, a lot of units won't use it to optimize their builds. So this is where like, At the very least, for Miro's build, the previous card itself, it's really strong on casters. So if you're training a caster, you will be getting that passive. For this one, you have to have a unit that will benefit from this specifically to fully benefit from this one. But if you take out the usability of the passive, if you just take a look at the options over here, yeah, the stat line is actually pretty nice. So Omega is also a pretty good Arcana to go for if you start the game with her in terms of the SSR collection. Okay, next up, atop the tower. So this is a Lin card, but this unit I think is not released in the game yet. So this card over here is actually one of the stronger cards in the early game of the release, because this card is one of the most versatile attacker card before all the other OP ones got released on top. So like No Pain No Gain is one of the OG powerful cards. So it was always No Pain No Gain plus atop the tower until Frey's card got released, until Bunny Claire's card got released right here. So this card is really strong because number one, it's versatile. It goes basically with all attackers in the game, because the passive is a flat 8% attack boost. And on top of that, if we take a look at all the different boosts that this card can provide, an increase in attack power from the acquisition potential for the additional damage push during the Savior journey, plus the ability to gain additional strength stat during training means that you get to max out your strength stats in lesser training, and you get that additional training for other stats. So you can pump the stat lines of your unit. So pretty good stuff for an attacker. More importantly, if you take a look at this one, attack power increased by 8%. So this basically goes on all attackers that builds on attack power. So that's why this is one of, if not the most versatile card, right? So the power level is a little bit lower because if you take a look at all these abilities right here, yes, you have a bit of protection, yes, you have a bit of potential, but sometimes these are not stats that the attackers want. So this is the slightly weaker part for this one. But if not, this card is generally versatile and definitely worthy of the SS tier if we got more slots up there. So that's with regards to this card. Now, the next card over here, Stardress Acera's card. This is also a really powerful HP based card, but the thing about this card is it is more defensive by nature. So if you take a look at this, specializes in strengthening HP stats by sharing the stamina tag, and generally recommended for supports and defender. So if we scroll down, these are all the different potential we can get. Increase in speed as well as increase in maximum HP. So this means that any unit that wants that maximum HP increase would appreciate this boost. And obviously having speed on any unit would be greatly appreciated. So this one increases stamina if your bomb points are 30 or higher. So this one gives you that additional stamina stat. But stamina is not something which the attackers usually want to go for. So that's why this is more defensive by nature. More useful for units which wants that additional HP and the ability to soak more damage. So if we take a look at the abilities, mainly defensive stats in nature, and then you get this ability to get the experience point increase from training. So these are stuff which is much better off on the defensive unit or unit which wants to build HP percentage over the usual attackers. So this is why this card is in the S tier. It's an amazing card for HP based units, for defensive based units, just not as strong as some of the HP based cards for the attackers that are on the higher tier. So that's for Stardress Acera's Arcana. Now, let's talk about the other HP cards since we're on the topic. Starting off with Knight's Oath. So this card was one of the cards which I strongly recommend you guys reroll for, because this is one of the most used cards in this game. You can equip this card almost onto all characters because this card is one of the strongest card which gives you speed percentage of the potential, or speed value of the potential. So like I mentioned before, speed is king to move faster for all your various PvE contents and PvP contents. So this is one of the strongest potential that is universal across the board, right? You can have faster supports, you can have faster healers, you can have faster DPSs. And being a HP card means that it is one of the HP cards that you can slot into the usual 2-2-1 combination or 3-2 combination, even for your attackers. So that's why this card is very, very versatile. And then if we take a look at the abilities, we have the ability to recover quite a fair bit of stamina. So stamina is required for you to take up the random events or attack monsters in Savior Journey. So if this comes at the right time, you might not even need to spend a turn or your coins to recover in the inns, and you can actually do more training for even more stats. So stamina is quite valuable to give you more choice to give you more flexibility in terms of your stats build. So you can go for all the defensive training, offensive training, or get more gold by fighting the monsters. So this card is very, very strong together with the very universal speed boost of the passive right here. So that's why this is like a notch above Stardress Acera's card, because Stardress Acera is more for defensive base unit, but Knight's Oath can be used on defensive base and even offensive base unit. Now, for Bunny Girl's Child's HP card, so this is another HP card. This card is, I think, a good mix for attackers as well as defensive base units, because if you take a look at the potential, you got maximum HP increase as well as maximum HP increase with crit rate increase. So this crit rate increase is universal for HP based attackers as well. So crit rate is a universal buff that benefits attack base units and HP base units. So very universal damage buff for nearly everyone. And you get a whole bunch of HP percentage right here, which makes it a much more universal HP based card compared to Stardress Acera. So that's why it's a notch higher. So same thing, if you run through all this, you can see that there's stamina. So stamina basically gives you more choice to optimize your build based off the training that you choose. So there is a lot of RNG factor to consider, but having the control with all this stamina recovery allows you to optimize your own build more optimally. So that's why this card is in the highest tier. So if you get either of these two HP cards, that's like the best start you can get. In fact, because like this cards basically goes on almost all units. Okay, so the remaining SS tier cards are some of the best cards for the attackers. I'll start off with Made by Petra over here. So this is a concentration card for the concentration stat. So this card over here has a critical hit rate buff. So basically critical hit as well as HP percentage, they are the most universal stat line that can go on most unit. And this unit or this card has the effect hit rate. So this is especially crucial for unit with the ability to apply a debuff based off a specific percentage. So this is the most universal concentration card for this effect over here. And on top of that, the overall events has pretty decent buffs all around, making this the best concentration card and the most universal card if you need it for the effect accuracy passive. So that's for Made by Petra. The last two cards are attacker cards. So No Pain No Gain is Lacey's card. So this card over here, SS, as you guys can see, basically goes on all attackers as well because of the attack power boost plus critical hit rate boost. So this is 16, this is 12% worth of stats. And then on top of that, during the event, you get the ability to get more ancient coins, which also provides you with more flexibility in terms of the items you can buy from the shop at every stage of the game. So this is where the additional flexibility allows you to optimize your build better. So that's with regards to all these buffs. So generally good buffs for attackers or any unit which appreciates the strength stats. So that's for No Pain No Gain. And finally, we have Bunny Frey's card. So Bunny Frey's card, Unwielding Masterpiece. So take a look at this one. This card is the latest addition to the SS tier. If you take a look at all this, these are mostly the older units except for our Bunny Ghost. So this is the latest SS tier addition. So this one sort of overtook the Atop the Tower earlier in terms of the power level side. This is also generally a very versatile card. But more importantly, the amount of potential that you can get from this card is massive, right? Attack power boost together with critical damage boost, which is also very universal together with crit rate boost. And you get an additional maximum HP increase as well, giving you the additional survivability. So very, very powerful card with a lot of passive, with a decent event journeys tab over here. So a lot of stat lines with like the potential to choose the passive you want to unlock based off the units you want to train. So that's why this card is a higher power level compared to this one. But generally speaking, this card is also really good. Like I would actually put this in the SS here if I'm the creator of this one. But yeah, this is the rating for this tier list. But the top 10 cards over here together with Heavenly Trials as well as Acquire Rest Time would be the cards I recommend you guys to look out for when you're re-rolling for your Arcanas in the global release tomorrow. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe for even more guides from this channel, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!